Good day, everyone. Today we're going to delve into a subject that many have encountered but few truly understand. How to deal with narcissists and the behaviors that can dismantle their control. Narcissists thrive on a unique cocktail of attention, manipulation, and power. But they are far from invincible. By understanding their vulnerabilities, you can learn to protect yourself and even make them uncomfortable without stooping to their level. Let's discuss 6 key strategies that narcissists absolutely hate. Narcissists are fueled by external validation. They crave admiration and constant affirmation of their perceived superiority. Compliments, applause, and even your frustration can serve as their fuel. But what happens when you refuse to play their game? When you withhold unnecessary praise or ignore their attempts to provoke you, you starve their ego of the attention it so desperately seeks. Instead of feeding their sense of importance, focus on the truth. Narcissists hate it when people refuse to be manipulated by their exaggerated stories or grandiose claims. Be calm, be factual, and avoid emotional reactions. This will disrupt their strategy and force them to face their inner emptiness, a reality they work hard to avoid. Boundaries are kryptonite to narcissists. They despise limitations because it means they cannot control you. But boundaries are essential for your mental and emotional well-being. Say no when necessary and mean it. A narcissist might try to guilt you, charm you, or even intimidate you into abandoning your boundaries, but your strength lies in consistency. When you establish and maintain firm boundaries, you assert your self-worth. You show the narcissist that their manipulative tactics have no power over you. This refusal to bend or break under their pressure frustrates them because it challenges their need for dominance. Narcissists are experts at provoking strong emotional reactions. They might use your anger, sadness, or even joy to manipulate you further. However, remaining emotionally detached is one of the most effective ways to disarm them. When a narcissist tries to provoke you, stay calm. Respond instead of reacting. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions, but rather controlling how you express them. Narcissists hate when they can't push your buttons. Your calmness not only protects your peace, but also reveals their inability to control you. Over time, this lack of reaction forces them to rethink their approach, or even retreat altogether. Narcissists thrive on creating dependency. They want you to feel like you need them, whether emotionally, financially, or socially. But independence is a powerful weapon against their control. Pursue your own goals, cultivate your own skills, and celebrate your own achievements. Show the narcissist that your happiness and success are not tied to their approval. When they see that you are self-reliant and unshaken by their influence, it highlights their own insecurities. Narcissists hate being reminded that they are not the center of your universe. Your independence makes you immune to their manipulation and forces them to confront their manipulations and forces them to confront their limitations. Narcissists cannot stand being overshadowed or ignored. They crave the spotlight and despise it when others outshine them. The best way to frustrate a narcissist is to quietly focus on your own growth and success. You don't need to flaunt your achievements to make an impact. Let your actions and progress speak for themselves. When a narcissist sees you thriving without their involvement, it contradicts their narrative of superiority. They may try to diminish your accomplishments, but your silence and steady progress are undeniable. Success, coupled with humility, is a direct challenge to their inflated ego. Narcissists operate with an insatiable need for validation. Their entire sense of self-worth is often built on a shaky foundation of external approval. They thrive on compliments, praise, and any form of attention, whether positive or negative. This constant need for validation stems from an internal void they are unwilling or unable to confront. When people around them provide this validation, it feeds their inflated ego. allowing them to maintain the illusion of superiority. However, when that source of validation is cut off, their carefully constructed facade begins to crumble. To refuse to validate a narcissist's ego, you must first recognize the subtle ways they draw others into their web of approval seeking. A narcissist might boast about their achievements, subtly or overtly fishing for compliments. They might frame themselves as a victim in certain situations, hoping to elicit sympathy and attention. In social settings, they may dominate conversations, showcasing their superiority through humor, intelligence, or charisma. By observing these patterns, you can understand the mechanisms they use to pull others into feeding their ego. Once you have identified these behaviors, the key is to disengage from their attempts to manipulate your reactions. For instance, if a narcissist begins bragging about their accomplishments, resist the urge to respond with exaggerated praise or acknowledgement. Instead, you can offer neutral responses like, "That's interesting," or shift the focus of the conversation to a more balanced or unrelated topic. This approach subtly denies them the emotional fuel they are seeking. It's also important to be mindful of the nonverbal ways you might unintentionally validate their ego. Narcissists are highly attuned to body language and tone. Enthusiastic nods, excessive laughter, or even prolonged eye contact during their self-aggrandizing moments can reinforce their behavior. By maintaining a calm and composed demeanor, you send a clear signal that their attempts to dominate your attention are ineffective. Another critical aspect of refusing to validate their ego involves staying true to facts rather than falling for exaggerated narratives. Narcissists often embellish their stories, presenting themselves as heroes or martyrs in exaggerated scenarios. When you gently steer the conversation toward objective truths, you disrupt their ability to control the narrative. For example, if a narcissist claims to have single-handedly saved a project, you might respond by acknowledging the team's effort or focusing on other aspects of the situation. This not only denies them the sole credit they crave, but also redirects the focus away from their inflated version of events. Narcissists may also provoke negative emotions to seek validation through conflict. They may say or do things intended to upset you, knowing that your emotional reaction gives them a sense of power. In these situations, refusing to engage emotionally is one of the most effective ways to deny them validation. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions entirely, but choosing how and when to express them. By responding with calmness and composure, you rob them of the satisfaction they gain from eliciting a dramatic reaction. It's equally crucial to avoid falling into the trap of feeling responsible for their emotional well-being. Narcissists often rely on others to provide constant reassurance and support, subtly placing the burden of their happiness on those around them. This creates a dynamic where others feel obligated to keep the narcissist satisfied, often at the expense of their own needs. Refusing to validate their ego means breaking free from this dynamic and understanding that you are not responsible for their emotional state. In some cases, refusing to validate a narcissist's ego can provoke resistance or even hostility. They may escalate their efforts to draw you back into their world of manipulation, using guilt, anger, or charm to regain control. Recognizing this pattern is essential to maintaining your stance. It's not about withholding kindness or being confrontational. Rather, it's about maintaining your integrity and refusing to compromise your own values and boundaries for the sake of their inflated sense of self. By consistently refusing to validate their ego, you disrupt the cycle that enables their behavior. Over time, this creates an environment where their usual tactics no longer work, forcing them to confront their inability to control you. It is not an easy process, as narcissists are often relentless in their pursuit of validation. However, your refusal to engage on their terms is a powerful statement of your independence and self-respect. Narcissists have a deep-seated aversion to boundaries because boundaries represent limitations to their control. For a narcissist, the absence of boundaries means they can manipulate, dominate, and exploit others without restriction. Therefore, setting and enforcing boundaries is one of the most effective ways to protect yourself and disrupt their influence. However, setting boundaries with a narcissist requires courage, consistency, and a strong sense of self-worth. To set boundaries effectively, it's important to first understand what boundaries are and why they are necessary. Boundaries are the personal limits you establish to protect your emotional, physical, and mental well-being. They define what is acceptable and unacceptable in how others treat you. For many people, especially those who have dealt with narcissists, setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable or even selfish. However, boundaries are not about punishing others, they are about respecting yourself. Narcissists will often push against any boundary you attempt to establish. They may test your limits with subtle challenges at first, ignoring your requests or finding loopholes to bypass your rules. For example, if you set a boundary that you need time to yourself in the evenings, a narcissist might accidentally interrupt you with a trivial issue, framing it as urgent. They may also guilt-trip you, suggesting that your boundary is unreasonable or selfish. Understanding these tactics helps you prepare for their resistance and strengthens your resolve to maintain your boundaries. When setting boundaries with a narcissist, clarity and firmness are essential. Ambiguity gives them room to manipulate, so your boundaries must be specific and non-negotiable. For instance, instead of saying, "I need some space sometimes," say, "I need 1 hour every evening for myself, and I won't be available during that time." By being clear and direct, you eliminate opportunities for them to reinterpret or dismiss your boundary. Enforcing boundaries is as important as setting them. Narcissists are experts at testing limits, and if they see that you are unwilling to uphold your boundaries, they will continue to disregard them. Consistency is key. Each time you allow a narcissist to cross a boundary without consequence, you signal to them that your boundaries are flexible and can be ignored. Enforcing boundaries doesn't have to involve confrontation or anger. It can be as simple as calmly repeating your boundary and following through with appropriate actions when it's violated. For example, if you've established that you won't tolerate disrespectful language and the narcissist continues to speak to you in a demeaning way, your enforcement might involve walking away from the conversation or limiting your interactions with them. This sends a clear message. Your boundaries are non-negotiable, and there are consequences for crossing them. Narcissists hate losing control, and boundaries represent a direct challenge to their dominance. Narcissists hate being responsible for their dominance. It's also important to prepare for the emotional manipulation that often accompanies boundary setting. Narcissists may use guilt, shame, or even anger to make you question your decision. They might accuse you of being unfair, unkind, or overly sensitive. These tactics are designed to make you feel responsible for their discomfort and to pressure you into removing the boundary. Recognizing these behaviors as manipulation can help you stay focused on your own needs and prevent you from caving to their demands. End quote. Another challenge in setting boundaries with a narcissist is managing your own emotions. Narcissists are skilled at triggering feelings of fear, doubt, and anxiety in others, especially when their control is threatened. They may react with hostility, sulking, or dramatic displays of victimhood. It's natural to feel uneasy in the face of such reactions, but it's important to remember that their response is not your responsibility. Subsubstance, das, so. Your boundaries are about protecting your well-being, not about managing their emotions. In addition to emotional resistance, narcissists may attempt to bypass your boundaries through charm or manipulation. They might temporarily comply with your requests, only to revert to their old behaviors once they feel the immediate pressure has lifted. This cycle of temporary compliance and repeated violations can be exhausting, but it underscores the importance of vigilance and consistency in enforcing your boundaries. One way to strengthen your boundaries is by reinforcing them with self-affirmation. Remind yourself why your boundary is necessary and how it serves your well-being. For example, if you've set a boundary around not engaging in arguments, remind yourself that this boundary protects your peace and prevents unnecessary stress. This self-affirmation can help you stay committed to your boundaries, even when the narcissist attempts to wear you down. When setting boundaries with a narcissist, it's helpful to adopt a mindset of calm assertiveness. This involves expressing your boundaries confidently and without apology. For instance, instead of saying, "I'm sorry, but I really need some space," you can say, "I need space and I appreciate your understanding." This shift in language communicates self-assurance and reduces opportunities for the narcissist to exploit your feelings of guilt or uncertainty. It's also worth noting that setting boundaries is not just about saying no to the narcissist. It's also about saying yes to yourself. Each time you establish a boundary, you affirm your own worth and prioritize your needs. This process can be empowering, especially if you've spent a significant amount of time accommodating the narcissist's demands at the expense of your own well-being. Over time, as you maintain your boundaries, you may notice a shift in your relationship with the narcissist. They may push back harder, attempting to regain control, or they may distance themselves, seeking easier targets for their manipulation. While these changes can be challenging, there are also signs that your boundaries are working. Staying emotionally detached when dealing with a narcissist is one of the most powerful strategies for protecting your mental and emotional well-being. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions, whether those reactions are anger, frustration, or even sympathy. Your emotions provide them with a sense of control and validation, fueling their manipulative tendencies. By detaching emotionally, you disrupt this dynamic, creating a barrier that shields you from their influence and deprives them of the satisfaction they seek. Emotional detachment does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. Rather, it involves maintaining a healthy distance between your emotions and the narcissist's behavior. It's about refusing to allow their actions or words to dictate your emotional state. This requires a deep understanding of your own triggers and the ability to remain composed, even in situations where the narcissist is deliberately trying to provoke you. One of the first steps in staying emotionally detached is recognizing the narcissist's patterns of manipulation. Narcissists are experts at exploiting emotions to achieve their goals. They may use anger to intimidate, guilt to control, or charm to disarm. By identifying these patterns, you can prepare yourself to respond with clarity and intention rather than being swept up in the emotional turmoil they create. A key aspect of emotional detachment is mastering the art of neutrality. Narcissists often provoke strong reactions to feel powerful and in control. For example, they might make cutting remarks, dismiss your feelings, or create unnecessary conflict to get a rise out of you. When you respond with neutrality, calmly and without emotional investment, you deny them the satisfaction of seeing their tactics succeed. This neutral stance sends a clear message. Their attempts to manipulate your emotions no longer work. To maintain this neutral stance, it's important to practice mindfulness and self-awareness. Mindfulness allows you to stay present and grounded even in the face of provocation. When a narcissist attempts to draw you into an emotional reaction, pause and take a moment to assess the situation. Ask yourself, what are they trying to achieve? How can I respond in a way that preserves my peace? This moment of reflection can prevent impulsive reactions and help you stay in control of your emotions. Another important strategy for emotional detachment is setting clear mental boundaries. While physical boundaries are essential for limiting the narcissist's access to your time and energy, mental boundaries protect your inner world. This involves reminding yourself that the narcissist's behavior is a reflection of their own issues, not a reflection of your worth or character. By separating their actions from your self-perception, You can reduce the emotional impact of their words and deeds. Detaching emotionally also means refusing to engage in their games. Narcissists are often skilled at drawing others into circular arguments, blame shifting, or attempts to prove themselves. Engaging in these dynamics only feeds their need for control and validation. Instead, focus on disengaging from conversations or interactions that feel manipulative or emotionally charged. This might mean calmly ending a discussion, walking away, or redirecting the conversation to neutral topics. One of the challenges of staying emotionally detached is dealing with the narcissist's attempts to push your buttons. Narcissists know how to exploit your vulnerabilities using past experiences, insecurities, or sensitive topics to provoke a reaction. To counter this, it's essential to build emotional resilience. This involves acknowledging your triggers and working to desensitize yourself to their tactics. For example, if a narcissist often criticizes a specific aspect of your life, remind yourself of your strengths and achievements in that area. By reframing their criticism, you can neutralize its emotional impact. Harmony. Practicing emotional detachment also requires a shift in perspective. Narcissists often operate in a world of illusions, projecting their insecurities and shortcomings onto others. When you understand that their behavior is rooted in their own struggles and not a reflection of reality, it becomes easier to detach emotionally. This perspective allows you to view their actions with compassion or indifference rather than taking them personally. Developing emotional detachment is not a one-time effort, but an ongoing process. Narcissists are persistent, and their tactics may evolve as they try to regain control. Staying detached requires vigilance and self-discipline, as well as a commitment to prioritizing your well-being over their demands. This might mean taking time for self-care, seeking support from trusted friends or professionals, and continually reinforcing your mental and emotional boundaries. Delivers a fragment from process that precedes. It's also important to recognize that emotional detachment doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. Suppressing emotions can lead to resentment, frustration, or burnout. Instead, focus on processing your emotions in healthy ways, such as journaling, talking to a trusted friend, or engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation. This allows you to release pent-up emotions without giving the narcissist the reaction they seek. Narcissists may interpret your emotional detachment as a threat to their control, and they might escalate their tactics in an attempt to reestablish dominance. They may use guilt-tripping, love-bombing, or even subtle intimidation to draw you back into their emotional orbit. Understanding these tactics and preparing for them can help you maintain your detachment, even when faced with increased pressure. Another component of emotional detachment is learning to focus on what you can control. Narcissists often thrive on creating chaos and uncertainty, leaving others feeling powerless and overwhelmed. By shifting your focus to your own actions, choices, and responses, you reclaim a sense of agency. This might mean setting goals for personal growth, cultivating positive relationships, or pursuing hobbies and interests that bring fulfillment. When your energy is directed toward building your own life, the narcissist's attempts to dominate your emotions lose their power. Staying emotionally detached also involves accepting that you cannot change or fix the narcissist. Narcissists are often deeply resistant to self-reflection or personal growth, and their behavior is unlikely to change without significant intervention. Accepting this reality allows you to let go of the hope that they will suddenly recognize the harm they've caused or alter their ways. This acceptance frees you from the emotional burden of trying to fix the relationship, enabling you to focus on your own well-being. Lastly, practicing emotional detachment means embracing a mindset of self-respect and self-preservation. Narcissists are adept at making others feel small, inadequate, or dependent on their approval. By detaching emotionally, you assert your independence and refuse to allow their behavior to dictate your self-worth. This shift in mindset is empowering, as it reminds you that your value is not determined by their perception of you, but by your own beliefs, choices, and actions. Demonstrating independence is a crucial strategy when dealing with a narcissist, as it disrupts their need for control and dominance in relationships. Narcissists thrive on dependency. They seek to create situations where others rely on them for validation, decision-making, or emotional support. By showcasing your independence, you send a clear message that you are capable, self-sufficient, and not easily manipulated, which can be profoundly unsettling for a narcissist. Independence begins with cultivating a strong sense of self. Narcissists often exploit insecurities or uncertainties to gain control, so having a clear understanding of your identity, values, and goals is essential. Take time to reflect on who you are outside of the narcissist's influence. What drives you? What are your passions and ambitions? When you anchor yourself in these truths, it becomes much harder for a narcissist to undermine your confidence or sway your decisions. One of the most visible ways to demonstrate independence is by making decisions without seeking the narcissist's input or approval. Narcissists often position themselves as the ultimate authority, encouraging others to defer to their judgment. When you take ownership of your choices, whether it's as simple as selecting a restaurant or as significant as pursuing a new career path, you reclaim control over your life. This autonomy signals that you are not reliant on their guidance or validation to move forward. Financial independence is another powerful tool in your arsenal. Narcissists frequently use financial control as a means to exert power, creating scenarios where their targets feel trapped or indebted. By managing your finances responsibly and building your own financial stability, you remove one of their primary mechanisms of control. This might involve creating a budget, saving for the future, or even seeking additional income streams to reduce financial dependence on the narcissist. In addition to financial independence, emotional independence is equally important. Narcissists often position themselves as the center of their target's emotional world, fostering a dynamic where their approval or disapproval carries immense weight. To counter this, focus on developing internal sources of validation. Celebrate your achievements, acknowledge your strengths, and practice self-compassion. By taking the time to recognize and express appreciation, when you derive confidence and fulfillment from within, the narcissist's opinions lose their power over you. Independence also involves cultivating a support network outside of the narcissist's influence. Narcissists often isolate their targets from friends, family, or colleagues, creating an environment where their perspective dominates. By reconnecting with loved ones, joining social groups, or seeking professional support, you build a safety net that reinforces your autonomy. These connections provide not only practical support, but also a reminder that you are valued and respected beyond the narcissist's narratives. Another way to demonstrate independence is by pursuing personal growth and development. Narcissists often discourage growth that doesn't revolve around them, fearing that it will diminish their control. When you invest in yourself, whether through education, hobbies, or self-improvement, you signal that your life is not centered around their approval. This growth can take many forms, from learning a new skill to improving your physical health or exploring your creativity. Each step toward personal development reinforces your independence and resilience. Setting and enforcing boundaries is a fundamental aspect of demonstrating independence. Narcissists often push against boundaries, testing how far they can go in exerting control. When you clearly articulate your limits and consistently enforce them, you establish yourself as someone who values their own needs and refuses to be dominated. This might mean saying no to unreasonable demands, asserting your right to privacy, or standing firm in your decisions despite their attempts to guilt or pressure you. Independence also means refusing to engage in the narcissist's games. Narcissists often use manipulation, gaslighting, or emotional outbursts to pull others into their drama. By stepping back and refusing to participate, you show that you are not easily drawn into their web. This might involve calmly walking away from an argument, avoiding retaliatory behavior, or focusing your energy on productive and meaningful activities instead of engaging with their provocations. Physical independence can also play a significant role in breaking free from a narcissist's influence. If you share a living space or depend on them for certain aspects of your daily life, finding ways to reduce or eliminate that dependency can be transformative. This might mean securing your own transportation, learning new skills to manage household tasks independently, or even exploring alternative living arrangements if necessary. Each step toward physical independence reinforces your autonomy and diminishes their control. Independence requires confidence, but it also demands patience and consistency. Narcissists often respond to displays of independence with resistance, using tactics such as guilt-tripping, love-bombing, or subtle sabotage to reassert control. Recognizing these tactics for what they are and refusing to be swayed by them strengthens your resolve. This persistence not only reinforces your independence, but also sends a clear signal that you are committed to living life on your own terms. Demonstrating independence also involves embracing a mindset of self-reliance and empowerment. Narcissists thrive on creating dependency, fostering a belief that their targets cannot thrive without them. By actively seeking solutions to challenges, taking responsibility for your actions, and celebrating your successes, you counter this narrative. Because this self-reliance is a powerful affirmation of your autonomy and a reminder that you are capable of navigating life's complexities without their interference. A key aspect of independence is maintaining control over your time and priorities. Narcissists often demand excessive attention, positioning their needs and desires above all else. By taking ownership of your schedule and dedicating time to your own goals and interests, you assert your right to a balanced and fulfilling life. This might involve setting aside time for personal projects, committing to a fitness routine, or simply carving out moments of rest and reflection. Another element of independence is developing a strong sense of purpose. Narcissists often attempt to make themselves the focal point of others' lives, drawing attention away from personal aspirations or dreams. By identifying and pursuing your purpose, you shift the focus back to what truly matters to you. Whether it's advancing in your career, contributing to your community, or exploring your passions, living with purpose reinforces your independence and resilience. Independence also requires a willingness to stand up for yourself, even in the face of opposition. Narcissists often use intimidation or manipulation to suppress dissent, creating an environment where their targets feel unable to speak out. By calmly and confidently asserting your perspective, you challenge this dynamic and demonstrate that you will not be silenced. This might mean addressing unfair treatment, expressing your preferences, or simply refusing to accept their version of events without question. Finally, demonstrating independence involves embracing the belief that you are enough as you are. Narcissists often erode their target's self-esteem, fostering a sense of inadequacy or dependence. By rejecting this narrative and affirming your worth, you create a foundation of self-confidence that cannot be shaken by their attempts to undermine you. This inner strength is the cornerstone of independence, empowering you to live authentically and unapologetically. Thriving in silence and success is a powerful strategy when dealing with a narcissist, as it directly undermines their desire to control and manipulate the narrative of your life. Narcissists thrive on attention and often feel the need to insert themselves into the lives of others to maintain a sense of superiority or relevance. By choosing to succeed quietly and without fanfare, you deny them the opportunity to diminish your achievements or twist them to serve their own agenda. Although motivated by power, success in silence begins with cultivating a mindset of self-motivation and internal validation. Narcissists often seek to position themselves as the gatekeepers of approval, making you feel as though your accomplishments only have value if they acknowledge them. By learning to celebrate your victories privately and drawing pride from your own hard work, you take away their power to influence how you perceive your progress. This internal validation becomes a shield, protecting you from their attempts to downplay or dismiss your achievements. Operating in silence also involves being selective about what you share with the narcissist. Narcissists have a tendency to gather information to later use it as a weapon, whether by undermining your efforts, spreading misinformation, or taking credit for your ideas. By limiting the details you disclose, you create a protective boundary around your personal growth and success. This might mean avoiding discussions about your goals, avoiding sharing milestones, or simply withholding information about the opportunities you're pursuing. Thrive in silence by embracing the power of quiet persistence. Narcissists often crave immediate gratification and grand displays, but true success is built on consistency, discipline, and hard work, qualities they may not recognize or value. By focusing on your path and working diligently toward your goals without seeking external approval, you build a foundation of lasting success that cannot be easily disrupted. This quiet persistence also allows you to stay under their radar, avoiding unnecessary conflict or interference. Silence does not mean isolation, but rather strategic discretion. It is essential to cultivate supportive relationships and seek guidance or encouragement from trusted individuals who genuinely have your best interests at heart. Narcissists often attempt to isolate their targets, creating an environment where their voice becomes the loudest or only one. By maintaining connections outside of the narcissist's influence, you ensure that your perspective remains balanced and grounded. Thriving in silence requires letting go of the need to prove anything to the narcissist. Narcissists often provoke competition or conflict, seeking to position themselves as superior or indispensable. When you step back and refuse to engage in these dynamics, you reclaim your energy and focus it on meaningful endeavors. Success in this context becomes less about outperforming the narcissist and more about fulfilling your own potential and aspirations. Another aspect of silent success is understanding the value of humility. Narcissists often equate success with grandiosity, expecting lavish praise or public recognition for even minor achievements. By thriving in humility, you contrast their need for validation, showing that true success does not require an audience. This approach not only protects your accomplishments from their interference, but also reinforces the authenticity and depth of your growth. Silence also involves mastering emotional detachment from their reactions. Narcissists may respond to your success with envy, sabotage, or attempts to diminish your progress. By remaining emotionally grounded and refusing to engage with their negativity, you maintain control over your narrative. This detachment allows you to stay focused on your goals without being derailed by their attempts to create drama or conflict. Another key to thriving in silence is aligning your actions with your values and vision. Narcissists often seek to influence others' choices, steering them toward decisions that serve their own interests. When you quietly pursue goals that align with your authentic self, you create a life that is fulfilling and meaningful on your terms. This alignment strengthens your independence and resilience, making it harder for the narcissist to manipulate or control you. Building resilience in silence involves recognizing that success is a journey, not a destination. Narcissists often view life in terms of immediate wins or losses, creating a pressureful environment that can be emotionally draining. By embracing the process of growth and finding joy in small, incremental progress, you shift your focus away from their criticisms or judgments. This mindset allows you to thrive regardless of their opinions or interference. The power of thriving in silence lies in its subtlety. Narcissists are often drawn to conflict and spectacle, seeking opportunities to assert dominance or draw attention to themselves. When you remove these opportunities by staying calm, composed, and focused on your path, you deprive them of the drama they crave. This quiet strength not only protects your success, but also sends a powerful message about your autonomy and self-sufficiency. Thrive in silence by prioritizing actions over words. Narcissists often rely on manipulation through rhetoric, using charm or intimidation to shape perceptions. By focusing on tangible results and demonstrating your capabilities through consistent effort, you show that actions speak louder than words. This approach leaves little room for them to distort your achievements or undermine your confidence. Maintaining a low profile as you succeed also helps you stay adaptable and flexible. Narcissists often attempt to control or restrict others by creating rigid expectations or boundaries. When you work quietly and without unnecessary attention, you retain the freedom to explore new opportunities, pivot when necessary, and evolve without their interference. This adaptability is a crucial aspect of long-term success, allowing you to navigate challenges and seize opportunities on your terms. In silence, you also protect your peace of mind. Narcissists often inject chaos and tension into situations, creating an environment where it's difficult to focus or thrive. By cultivating a calm and centered approach to your work and life, you create a space where your energy is directed toward productive and meaningful pursuits. This inner peace becomes a foundation for sustained growth and achievement. This inner peace becomes a foundation for sustained growth and achievement. Thriving in silence does not mean diminishing your accomplishments or hiding from the world. Instead, it is about choosing where and how to share your success in ways that serve your growth and well-being. Narcissists often seek to overshadow or exploit others' achievements, but when you share your victories selectively and strategically, you maintain control over your narrative. This discretion ensures that your success is celebrated in environments that uplift and inspire rather than detract or diminish. Lastly, thriving in silence involves embracing the concept of delayed gratification. Narcissists often seek immediate recognition or rewards, focusing on short-term gains rather than long-term growth. By committing to your goals with patience and perseverance, you build a foundation for enduring success. This mindset not only sets you apart, but also reinforces your independence, showing that your progress is driven by purpose rather than external validation. Narcissists hate being called out, especially when done tactfully. They work hard to create an image of perfection, and any challenge to that image threatens their sense of control. This doesn't mean engaging in confrontation or public humiliation. That will only escalate their anger. Instead, use subtle truths to shine a light on their actions. For example, ask clarifying questions or repeat their words back to them in a neutral tone. This forces them to confront their own contradictions and exposes their manipulative tactics without you needing to accuse them outright. Narcissists hate when they lose control of the narrative, and your calm, strategic approach keeps the upper hand in your favor. Dealing with a narcissist is never easy, but understanding their vulnerabilities gives you the power to protect yourself. Remember, your goal is not revenge or harm, but self-preservation and freedom. By refusing to validate their ego, setting firm boundaries, staying emotionally detached, demonstrating independence, thriving quietly, and exposing their behavior through subtle truths, you can create a dynamic where their influence over you diminishes. Narcissists may never change, but you don't need to be their victim. Embrace these principles, stand firm in your truth, and take back your power. In doing so, you'll not only frustrate the narcissist, but also reclaim the peace and strength that is rightfully yours. Thank you.